You know that. Ceony swallowed against a dry throat and nodded. She did know that, but she didn't care to. Not now. The dark, foreboding mansion seemed a reflection of herself and everything that had gone wrong the last few days. Perhaps she had jinxed herself last night when she had gathered all the paper she could find in the hotel and burned it, sheet by sheet, in the fireplace while Magician Emery consulted a map in the receiving hall. Or perhaps Magician Thane was proof that Ceony's imagination needed a great deal of expanding. Ceony bit down a sigh. She had come so far during her 19 years of life, and now everything she had achieved, at steep odds no less, seemed to flit away from her, leaving her cold and empty. All her aspirations were now to filter down to simple paper. Ceony would spend the rest of her days writing ledgers and reading outdated books, her only cheer in life, penning letters home that would open themselves upon arrival. Of all the materials Magician Emery could have chosen, glass, metal, plastic, even rubber, she had chosen paper. Magician Emery obviously did not realize that the reason folding had become a dying art was because the skills it enabled were so completely useless. Refusing to be pulled along like a schoolgirl, Ceony straightened her back and trudged up the lane toward the gates. The fence itself was little more than spears shoved into the ground butt first and tied together with barbed wire. The wind's strength built with every step, threatening to blow Ceony's hat off as she reached for the gate's catch. The scenery around her changed so abruptly, Ceony jumped, nearly dropping her suitcase. Her hand rested on a simple chain-link fence, and not one built from the refuse of old battles and dilapidated prisons. The sun broke through the clouds above, and the wind settled down to the faintest, most uneven breeze. The house before her shrunk to 3 stories, built of simple yellow brick. The shutters, all open, were white, and the porch looked sturdy enough for an entire team of horses to prance upon. Ceony lifted her hand, wide eyes taking in the transformation. She half expected that breaking her connection to the gate would restore the dreary illusion, but the house remained the same when she released it. The path to the door was unpaved, but an array of red, violet, and yellow tulips lined it instead of jagged rocks. Blinking, Ceony unlatched the gate and stepped closer. Not tulips. At least not real ones. Every flower in the yard looked to be crafted of folded paper, each blossom perfectly creased. The buds appeared real, so much so that when a cloud passed over the afternoon sun, they all closed their petals ever so slightly, like flowers trying too hard to be flowers. With a quick glance, Ceony noticed the strips of paper hanging from the chain-link fence, and beyond them, whole sheets of paper taller than any person and wider than the buggy that had brought her here. An illusion. Ceony recalled attending a lecture on espionage at the school last winter, and the speaker had mentioned using paper dolls to mask one's appearance. But she had never imagined using the tactic for an entire house. However it was done. Magician Emery stepped up beside her, casually pulling off her silk gloves finger by finger. The transformation didn't jar her one bit, but she didn't gloat either. Ceony half expected Magician Thane to show up at the door there and then, but the door, now of solid wood and painted such a light brown it looked orange, remained closed and quiet. Perhaps he's not evil at all, Ceony thought with a frown. Just mad. Passing the paper flowers, Ceony stepped up to the door. Magician Emery not a pace behind her, and knocked firmly with her knuckles, trying to stand as straight as her 5'3" frame would allow. She absently touched her hair, which was the color of uncooked yams, and hung over her left shoulder in a loose braid. She had